Alex Pereira's run in the UFC has been nothing short of magical. I mean, what this guy has been able to accomplish, coming from a pure kickboxing base, transferring that over to MMA, I mean, he is without a doubt the biggest star of the sport. He has transcended the sport to such an extent that OnlyFans models are launching their careers based on accusations made against him. That was something that only guys like Conor McGregor were big enough to do in the past, but, Alex Pereira has hit that level, and that is a big deal. And I think, based on his performance at UFC 307, it's fair to start asking the question, who can stop this guy? I mean, who can beat him? We have seen him lose once before in the UFC, but, I mean, man, the way Adesanya did it was a bit of a Hail Mary. I mean, Izzy was having zero success against Pereira in their second fight. Pereira was landing that calf kick all day long. He was walking Adesanya down. And look, Izzy was losing that fight. It was not looking good for him. And that's because Pereira made one adjustment from their first fight, and that was to constantly be circling away from Adesanya's right hand. The right hand was what put Pereira in trouble there in their first fight, and with that tweak, Adesanya was in serious trouble. He was getting beat up. Adesanya said himself he was in trouble, so he shelled up against the fence, which he had never ever done before. Pereira thought he was done, started unloading on him against the fence, and Adesanya set him up perfectly, made him run into a giant overhand. Look, beautiful strategy. I commend Adesanya for it, but here's the thing, it would never work again. If they fought a million more times, that would never, ever work again. So look, Adesanya, he pulled out the perfect trump card, but again, it was a bit of a Hail Mary. So I still think, look, how does somebody beat this guy? Right? He has not been invincible. We have seen him face some adversity, and I think, look, the adversity he faced against Khalil was very telling. I mean, clearly he was having issues timing Khalil's speed. Khalil made him run into a head kick using feints. He landed a body shot that really hurt Pereira, but interestingly enough, it does seem to me like people kind of want to discount the success Khalil had because Alex revealed that he was sick going into the fight. He was taking antibiotics. He only had a 3-week training camp, which, look, I want to be completely clear, that is wildly impressive. However, it is so absurdly rare that any fighter comes into a fight 100%. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, Alex Pereira's last fight before this one, he was also compromised. He also had a short training camp. I mean, look, Sean O'Malley fought Aljamain Sterling with a bruised rib. He couldn't grapple for 5 weeks going into that fight. He also was hurt going into the Merab fight and immediately got surgery after that fight happened. Yet, both of those fights played out very, very differently because it came down to game plan and execution. I mean, you can find countless examples. George St. Pierre and Michael Bisping both went on the Joe Rogan podcast and both talked about how horrifically compromised they each were going into each other's fights. Conor fought Khabib while his foot was a balloon. Khabib fought Justin Gaethje in a camp where he got the mumps and he had a bunch of broken toes. And, Merab fought Sean O'Malley with a staph infection. I mean, now that I think about it, Aljamain Sterling also alluded to the fact that he was really compromised when he fought Sean O'Malley. I mean, look, I get it. I understand, but you can't just discount everything Khalil pulled off in that fight because at the end of the day, there are certain things that Pereira struggles with, and I think there are very specific matchups we could potentially see Pereira have in the future, and the question is, can any of these guys capitalize on Pereira's perceived weaknesses? Now, starting off with the most obvious matchup for Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev. Everybody has been waiting for this fight for a very, very long time, but Ankalaev has to get through Alexander Rakic, and Rakic has the opportunity to do something hilarious if he defeats Magomed. But look, honestly, I think Magomed Ankalaev has come out and said he will not wrestle Alex Pereira. He will strike with him, and I have gone on record in the past to say that would be a horrible idea for Ankalaev. And it's not because Ankalaev is not extremely skilled in the stand-up. He genuinely is, but I do not believe he matches up well against Pereira. Magomed Ankalaev, his game is boxing. He's got really fast hands, really good combinations, and he is a counter striker. What he is good at is pressuring you, walking you down, getting in your face, forcing you to throw. And as soon as you do, he capitalizes with a 2, 3, 4 punch boxing combination. And, he's knocked out some very high level boxers for the 205-pound division because it can be a bit few and far in between. Though, issues Magomed does have is he is so reliant on counterpunching that if you do not throw and you make him have to be the one to engage, he can run into problems. This is the strategy that Jon Blachowicz employed that worked so well for him. Jon would just hang back, keep up a high guard, and keep attacking his legs. Inside leg kicks going shin to shin, outside calf kicks, and he was forcing Magomed to have to be the one to engage, to have to move forward and try to throw, and that just isn't his game. That is not where his game shines, and that is how Jon had so much success on the feet against him. So you look at Alex Pereira, and Pereira is going to have the reach advantage against Ankalaev, and he never overthrows. He very rarely ends up out of position. He stays behind his punches, he stays very defensively sound, and he throws jabs and he throws leg kicks. Pereira is not going to be whiffing on any right hands and giving Ankalaev the opportunity to slip, get on the inside, and land combinations. That's just not going to happen. So Magomed is going to have to be the one stepping in, trying to land. And that is so dangerous against somebody like Pereira because he is just waiting for an opportunity to touch you in the middle of your combination and knock you out with a punch that you do not see coming. So to me, there's absolutely no question. Ankalaev, if he wants to have any success during this fight, he is going to have to wrestle Pereira. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But that is kind of a scary prospect because it is so wildly impressive that Ankalaev, after 4 rounds of fighting Jon Blachowicz, with both of his legs completely chewed up, he still hit him with a power double leg, lifted him in the air, and slammed him. This is Jon Blachowicz we're talking about, who is a giant, fridgy motherfucker, and his top pressure when he gets you down, it is a problem. When you go back and you look at the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley fight, Buckley, when he would get Thompson down, he wasn't getting higher than him. He was just grabbing a hold of his legs, trying to pin him, and nothing was stopping Thompson from just standing back up. From this position right here, you have to get your head higher than your opponents. That is the key to holding them down. And that is what Magomed Ankalaev is so good at doing. He gets higher than you. He makes you carry his weight, and it is such a problem to try to stand back up against. And look, if he gets Pereira down, Pereira is not getting back up. It just comes down to the fact that the mechanics Magomed has in his top pressure, it's a lot better than Yuri Prochazka's. It's very different than Jon Blachowicz. Jon was looking for back takes and submissions against Pereira. Ankalaev, the thing is, he doesn't really wrestle. He much prefers to strike. We've only seen him grapple when he's absolutely had to. So it's difficult to speak definitively about what his game is going to look like on the ground, but we can say certainly his top pressure is going to be a problem. The big question we need to look at is how consistently can he take Pereira down, because that is much easier said than done because, again, Pereira is not overextending. He's not whiffing on any right hands and just giving you an opening to his legs. Most of the time when guys shoot on him, they just kind of close their eyes, bite down on their mouthpieces, and go for it. And they kind of stall out against the fence because of how physically strong Pereira is. So look, I think it's easier said than done for Magomed to shoot. I think if he takes a bad shot out in the open, Pereira is going to be ready for it. And the only way to really get deep on a takedown is to make Pereira run into one, to set him up for one. And I just don't think that's very likely because Pereira stays so defensively sound. He doesn't overextend. And look, another big thing is Pereira is constantly making improvements to his grappling, to his takedown defense, to his get-ups from the bottom. And, it's a big question mark how he's going to look in that area compared to the last time he faced adversity there. So look, honestly, I think this fight comes down to the fact that Ankalaev is a counter striker. He capitalizes off his opponent's mistakes, but Pereira just won't be giving him a lot to work with, and therefore, I think Pereira should be the favorite going into this fight. I can't imagine he would be, but I think he should be. Moving on, another very likely matchup I think we can see for Pereira in the future is Dricus Du Plessis. They have both expressed interest in wanting to fight each other. Dricus says he will happily move up to 205 pounds, and as of recently, Pereira said he is staying at 205. And I think that's fantastic because I believe he destroys Dricus at 205 pounds. Down at 185, where, Pereira has to deplete himself. He is very skinny, very frail. I'm not a fan of this matchup for him. Because, look, there's no question Dricus's A game in a matchup against Pereira is going to be to wrestle, is going to be to grapple. And I think Dricus, legitimately, he has really good back takes, really good submissions. I just don't think that Pereira at 185 can contend, but at 205 we have seen Pereira survive very dangerous positions from guys bigger, stronger than Dricus. Look, again, Jan Blachowicz, the walking refrigerator, slapped a body triangle on Pereira, sunk in a rear naked choke that, it was over the chin, but he had the hand hidden behind Pereira's head. This was a very tight choke from a very large man, and Pereira hung in there. The big question is going to be, how does Pereira deal with the blitzes? I have actually seen a lot of people say because Khalil had so much success blitzing Pereira with shots that Dricus would run through him. I'm not so sure. I think, obviously, Khalil Rountree is going to be way quicker, way faster, and potentially hits harder. It's tough to say, but Dricus, he does leave himself open to get countered when he's blitzing at you. Now, this never came into play against Sean Strickland or Israel Adesanya because neither of these guys are known for finding counters. But Darren Till did. Darren Till timed some real clean elbows right as Dricus was blitzing forward. And somebody like Alex Pereira, who again, what he is so good at is catching you in the middle of your combination with a punch you just don't see coming. This is something he can capitalize on. You see, when Khalil blitzes, what is so scary is, for one, he stays behind his punches and he mixes in straight shots and hooks together. So it's extremely difficult to read what kind of punch is coming, whereas Dricus kind of leads with his face. But he can get around this because, for one, he's very durable, but you also don't know when he's blitzing with punches or he's going to blitz with a spazzy takedown that he just falls on top of. But again, in a 5-round fight against Alex Pereira, that just leaves a lot of opportunities to eat a shot clean from a larger guy in a higher weight class. And even if he does complete takedowns, Alex has survived very dangerous positions from bigger, stronger people. I think the one big question mark with DDP, though, is that, he fought Strickland and Adesanya very differently than he fought Robert Whittaker. And again, it comes down to the fact that both Strickland and Adesanya are not known for countering people, whereas Whittaker has a very different style. Whittaker himself likes to use blitzes, and therefore DDP's entire game plan for that fight was to try to catch him with a jab as he's moving in, and that's exactly what he did. So look, it is very safe to assume that he would have a much more specialized game plan for somebody like Pereira. But at the end of the day, your skills are your skills, and I just don't think DDP has the best defense. I think at some point he is going to recklessly throw at Pereira, and I think this is a very, very dangerous matchup to do that against. Again, if they were to fight at 185, I'm picking DDP to ragdoll him, but up at 205, I think this is an easy win for Pereira. And now, the super fight of all super fights, Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones. I mean, look, Jon Jones, he's the current heavyweight champion technically. Pereira, this is the super fight to make. If there ever were to be a super fight, this is the super fight. I know Joe Rogan's been pushing Dana White to make it. Is it likely to happen? Probably not, but man, oh man, would I want nothing more than to watch Alex Pereira knock out Jon Jones. And dude, imagine the joy Jon's wife would feel seeing that. Just for once, seeing him in the exact same position that he puts her in on the regular. But look, as much as that would be amazing to see, I don't know how likely it is. Look, the scary thing for Alex Pereira in this matchup is just the fact that, for one, Jon Jones, he typically stays pretty defensively sound on the feet. Look, I've talked in the past extensively about how Jon Jones does struggle with boxers. His boxing offense and defense isn't amazing, but what Jon does do is he puts his right hand on his face, and then he puts his other hand all the way out. And that somewhat keeps him safe from getting knocked out because, again, to get knocked out, you gotta be hit with a shot you just don't see coming, that you're not bracing for. And unfortunately, Jon just does a very good job of using his reach, covering up, and moving away most of the time. And I think that could potentially be enough to really stifle Alex Pereira. Look, Pereira could have a lot of success with the calf kicks. We saw Thiago Santos do an amazing job landing some hard calf kicks on Jon Jones, but Jon is just so much bigger and steroidy, and I'm afraid if he gets a hold of Alex Pereira, a big difference there could be that Jon Jones does have very good submissions. He really has an ability to end the fight once it gets to the ground. I know initially for the Stipe fight, he put in a ton of work with Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan was working on him with Darces, rear naked chokes, and Jon being so long, being so much heavier, if he does get on top, it's kind of scary because if Pereira tries to get back up, he's putting himself in submission threat. If he stays on his back, he's at risk of eating monster elbows from the top, and this is all at a size disadvantage. When you look at Alexander Gustafsson and Dominic Reyes, two strikers who had a lot of success against Jon Jones, something very similar about them was they were very fast, very quick, very explosive. They were really good at getting on the inside, landing combinations, and then getting out again. But how often is Pereira the one needing to close the distance on you? Get on the inside to land combinations while avoid getting too close to enter the clinch. That is just not his game. He likes to be the guy at range, throwing long jabs, calf kicks on the outside, walking you down, pressuring you, and just trying to get into a position where he can land one clean shot. I just don't think his game really opens up against somebody like Jon, who is just going to be trying to grab a hold of him. Now, with that being said, though, again, I think Jon is going to be super vulnerable to Alex's calf kicks. If he can land a few of those, survive getting taken down, round resets, they're back on the feet, lands a few more calf kicks, all of a sudden those takedowns are coming harder and harder. Potentially, I can see a scenario where Alex pulls this off. He's just at so many disadvantages, and it's tough to make him a favorite in a matchup like that. But with that being said, this fight's not even happening. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. Jon Jones is retiring after Stipe because if he doesn't, he's going to have to fight Tom Aspinall, and he's not going to do that. But you know who might fight Tom Aspinall? Alex Pereira. And now this matchup, okay, I think we might have found the guy to stop Alex. I think we might have found the guy to definitively stop Alex right in his tracks because Jesus Christ, Tom Aspinall's a tough fight. I mean, look, there's no question. There has never been a more dangerous heavyweight boxer than Tom. He's so fucking lightning fast. I mean, he's a natural 257 pounds. He's so fast, so light, constantly feigning on the outside. You never know when he's going to blitz in with combinations. Not even just one punch. Now, he can knock you out with one punch. He's done that over and over again, but he will gladly land 3-punch combinations on you, and his head movement is so good, he'll slip your right hand and then run right into a takedown. And as soon as you hit the ground, he's hunting for submissions. He has such a well-rounded game. He's bigger. He's probably faster than Pereira. He has, I mean, how does Alex win? I don't know. You tell me. How does Alex win this? Tom is just such a fucking problem because there's so much you have to worry about. It's so hard to get a timing on his speed, and you have no idea when he's coming in with punches or he's coming in with takedowns, and his takedowns are super, super explosive. And not to mention, really good top pressure. He gets higher than you, like we talked about earlier. Really good ground and pound as well. And it's just, man, he's going to be 6'5". He's going to be taller. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be better. We know Pereira has problems with straight shots right down the middle from guys who are really fast. Well, how does he deal with a guy who's 260 pounds landing straight right hands right down the middle? I don't think he does. Now, if I were to pick a weakness that Tom Aspinall does have, there are the occasional moment he stays in the pocket just a little bit too long. You know, he got touched by Pavlovich that one time, but we're kind of looking at Hail Marys here. We're kind of looking at Hail Marys because offensively, Tommy's just so dangerous, and I don't know. Look, I think Alex Pereira, he's a 205er. I think 185 was a real tough cut for him, but I mean, clearly it worked. He was champion at 185, but 205, that is his weight class, and that is where he should really look to build his final legacy. The problem is, though, you know, let's say he beats Ankalaev, maybe DDP moves up to 205, but then really, what else is there for him? I think he's going to be very tempted for a move to heavyweight. I don't think that's a good idea. I think he should stay at 205. Maybe for a Jon Jones fight, I could potentially see Pereira pulling that one off. But I mean, come on, Tom Aspinall, he's just such a fucking problem. He should not fight Tom Aspinall. Hell no.